like 1 minute late. Sorry about that.
Okay,
Life.
here we go.
Wow.
Tonight we are gonna talk half square triangles, but we're gonna wait 1 minute for
Give people a minute to hop on.
friends to show up.
Right.
So. Hello.
Oh.
What?
I was gonna take off my walking foot.
Yeah, take that off. You don't need that.
We don't need that.
Hey, Bonnie. We still miss you.
Yep.
It's true. We miss our friends.
This is true. We don't need a walking foot for this, though. That's crazy tough.
No, this is not walking foot material right here. Okay. So today, while Jen finds the foot for her machine, hey Christy, we are going to talk about half square triangles 4 ways. People hate half square triangles, or they love them, or they don't mind them. But I know a lot of people who hate them.
Or they're like, I always lose my points.
Or they lose their points, or they get really frustrated with half square triangles. So we're going to talk about how to not hate them.
Right.
Because half square triangles are fun, and half square triangles make... Hey, Christine.
It's like the most basic quilt block there is beyond squares.
And I don't think you should avoid them, because they're really not that bad.
It makes me sad when people are like, well, I want to do a new pattern, but I don't want any triangles. And I was like, oh, that might be boring.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to talk half square triangles.
I need a longer extension cord.
Jen is not prepared. That's okay. But there's a lot of different ways to do half square triangles. We're going to talk about the 4 most common.
And what we like, what we don't.
What we like and what we don't like. You can do them however you want. But if you open up a pattern and their directions for half square triangles do not make you happy because it's not your preferred method, we're going to show you that you can do it a different way, your own way. And tomorrow we will be posting a half square triangle cheat sheet that has all the different finish sizes. So you can take whatever the pattern you're working on calls for and throw the pattern writer's instructions out the window if you hate them and do it your own way and still end up with the same size half square triangles.
So we will have cut size, unit size, and finish size.
Finish size means sewed into the quilt.
No raw edges. They're gone.
So, just understanding the difference. The cut size is the size you're going to cut the square to start with to make a half square triangle. Or the 2 squares, whichever way we do this.
Right. Unit size.
Unit size is the half square triangle made.
The unit.
But not assembled.
Right, not sewn into the quilt
Finish size is sewn into the quilt where the block finishes up at if I take a tape measure to it on the quilt. By the way, this is going to be our free pattern for April. This is your sneak peek. It is a lot of half square triangles.
But we love half square triangles.
But I love half square triangles.
So, yeah.
And I love, hey Susie, I love pixelated quilts. Pixelated quilts make me happy. But I like them even more pixelated. And so I pixelated with half square triangles.
Right.
So we will talk about that shortly. But first we're going to start. Very first, most basic method for cutting half square triangles involves sewing 2 triangles together. Okay?
There are times I do this. I don't totally avoid doing this.
That this is valid. It is my least favorite method out there. And Jen and I will tell you why in just a minute.
I'm going to move this out of the way. Hopefully you can get an idea of what I'm doing. I'm using a brown fabric as well as like a peachy pink. Because I think the brown will show up nicely on this. Or tan. I love this fabric with the little butterflies.
I know, it's a favorite. Cute. And it's in clearance.
And it's on clearance.
It is on clearance. Anyway, so when you have instructions to cut half square triangles this way, what it will do is it'll tell you to cut like a 3 3/8 inch square and then cut it in half once.
I cut it
on the diagonal.
I cut a square, right?
Debbie and Bonnie.
I cut a square. It's a square.
I will talk about my quilt near the end of this. Yes, I'm kind of excited about it.
I'm gonna cut that square in half diagonally so that I have 2. I have 1 pink and 1 tan triangle.
And we will sew
And
them
so
together.
this, I would just turn them to be right sides facing, because that's how we sew in quilting, with right sides facing. If you're a pinner, you can pin.
It doesn't hurt to pin them when doing this
When
way.
doing it this way, I would definitely pin.
Because the reason I don't like doing it this way, and the reason I don't recommend it, generally speaking, is because when you cut fabric on the side, it stretches this much or this much. With the fabric, it's going to stretch
a little more the length of fabric. Not much,
but there's a little bit of stretching. Hi, Robin. Now, cut on the bias.
Cut across the grain.
Ta-da!
And we stretch.
So much stretching.
Without trying.
Okay.
She's not putting any more effort into stretching this.
See, look at that. Look at how much I can pull and distort this triangle. So, that is why I don't recommend doing it this way. Because as you feed it through your machine, chances are
it's not
you're going to stretch the fabric
evenly. This is also a really good way if you have a decent opening for your needle to go through.
Yes,
it's gonna eat.
This is where you want for sure leaders and enders.
Luckily, I have a pinhole, so that's not a concern on this machine. But
a lot of machines that have a bigger opening where the needle will go in, they can tend to eat fabric when sewing this way.
Right.
So that's why it's really great to chain piece or have a leader and ender.
Yep.
So that the machine won't eat your fabric.
Speaking of which, hand me that so I can use it as a leader and ender. The last 2 lives we've done, I've not been able to chain piece and it's been painful. Right. Tonight I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I'm tired of not chain piecing. Alright. Okay. So this, with your half square triangles, again, there's no real rule for pressing. You can press it open or to the side. Depending on what you're doing, that'll determine kind of which way you press. Most of my half square triangles, I press to the side unless I have a specific reason not to. For instance, if I'm using really small pieces, or if I am going to be matching them up kind of funny. I sewed a nice accurate 1/4 inch seam on the back. I should ideally, because these were 4.5 inch squares cut into triangles, now have a 4 inch half square triangle. However, perfection usually doesn't happen.
So now when it comes to half square triangles, when the measurement you will usually see when cutting fabric for a half square triangle is something and 3/8 or 7/8, because you go 1/8 of an inch up from what you would cut if it was just going to be a square.
Right.
Jen and I both seriously, heavily recommend going up an extra 1/8. So if it says 3 3/8, cut it 3.5. It says 4 7/8, cut it 5 inches. Because that extra 1/8 of an inch, which isn't very much, will give you so much more room to accurately square this up and end up with the right size piece.
And honestly, squaring up is the most important step when it comes to making half square triangles. You skip that step, you will most likely lose your points. You want to make sure you keep your
whole size
or distort the whole
because even if you cut it like the 3 3/8, there's a little bit of square up room in there.
Right.
So it's still not going to be accurate.
The
only half square triangles you don't square up, technically, do it anyway. We'll show you the next method.
Are the flip and stitch?
Yeah. But this method,
I cut it at 4.5, so it will square it up to 4.
So when it comes to squaring up, you don't have to have a special ruler. This is just a quilter select ruler.
No.
But every ruler
I love a block. If I'm pressing to the side, these have a nice little groove in them that locks in to my seam that's flipped to the side, that's pressed to the side. And so it locks into that 45-degree angle.
So you can square it perfectly.
However, as much as I love these, if you don't have one, that's fine. A standard ruler will do it.
What you need is this 45-degree line. Don't get lazy on this one and just put it on the fabric somewhere and trim.
No.
The 45-degree line on this ruler needs to line up with your seam on this.
If you've forgotten your geometry, 45 is this corner to this corner.
Okay? It'll have a mark on it.
It'll probably say
60. Or if it goes like on this one.
Like that one has a 60.
This is a 60 and a 30, all those different diagonals. If it's a square, it's only going to be a 45.
Right.
Okay. So this should end up at 4
Okay.
inches.
We do math.
Right? 4?
Yep. It should end up at 4 inches.
Okay, so what I have here, you can't see it, is I have about a 1/16 of an inch to cut off all the way around. Do not try and cut all the way around. Okay, turn. You can cut 2 directions fairly safely, top and bottom.
Right.
And now you turn it around. And I love these rulers.
And we readjust.
And I reposition it. I've seen a lot of people try and only ignoring the 45-degree rule so that they only have to trim 2 sides. Trim all 4.
Yep.
Also, in that, it takes off that
the little corners,
flangey triangle on the edge. So now I have a perfect 4 inch half square triangle. This will finish at 3.5 inches.
Yep, but that's part of the reason I like to cut them a little bit big, is because it gives me extra to square up.
That one, the only room I had to square it up was this.
Right,
and that's not a lot. And if you're not 100% accurate, you could still end up with not enough.
Right. Alright, so for flip and stitch, if you've got a nice 45-degree guide, you can just
sew the line.
Sew the line. For those of you who don't have a guide, draw a line. Again, we're going to do 45-degree angles from one tip to another. Oh,
okay. This method you will see once in a while. It is not very common because it comes out wasteful.
It's a fairly wasteful method.
But if you only need one,
or a couple, a lot of times people will have you do this instead of this, because this loses half of it too. But this way we don't have to deal with triangles. Right? Right. Yep. Okay. So what I'm going to do, this makes 1. I'm going to sew on the line.
I'm just going to answer something really fast. If you do have to do it the triangle method, use starch.
Starch.
It will help so it doesn't stretch.
Best press. And before you cut it.
Before you cut it, just make sure you starched it really good. That will help with the stretching. It won't make it go away, but it will help.
Right.
Okay, so this method she sews on the line straight down the middle.
On the line. If you... And where are my little scissors?
They're right here.
Oh. Compulsive chain pieces.
Yes, yes.
Alright. And then what I'm going to do, now that I've sewn on the line, is I'm just going to trim the excess off. And leave about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Though that's a generous 1/4 of an inch. And again, we're just going to press it to the side, open. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to press this one open because it's a little bit smaller. Just for kicks.
Okay.
Because I can.
All right. This shouldn't need to be squared up.
It shouldn't, but it might. It doesn't hurt to check.
Let's see where I can see where it's at as far as being 2.5 inches, which is, well, what it should be. And it's pretty accurate. Like there's nothing really to trim off. So that's a way to make it accurate from the get-go and not have to square it up. However, it also wastes a lot of fabric. And so not my preferred method.
Right. But it works when you need 1.
Yes.
And I'd rather do this when you need 1 than this. Heather, this is an old Durabuilt iron. It's vintage. It's from probably the 50s. It's a travel iron. They're kind of awesome.
Super hot.
They get hot, which I love, except I have like 2 blisters on my arm from the other day.
We're going to talk about the most common method, the method I use most often. It's really the easiest way to go, and it's the 2 at a time half square triangle method. So I cut 2 4.5-inch squares here.
Which will be the same size I cut for this.
Which will finish the same as this. So they're 4.5 inches. If you read instructions on most guides and patterns, it'd say 4 3/8. I cut 4.5.
Round up.
So they'll finish at 3.5. So inside the quilt, they'll finish at 3.5.
Right.
So that's another way you can just kind of do the math. Go up 1 inch from where it's going to finish in the quilt.
Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's 1/2 inch for each seam.
Yeah. So what I did is I did it the same as the last one, and I drew the line straight down the middle on the 45-degree angle.
But we are not sewing on the line this time.
And this also is where your diagonal seam tape and stuff comes in super handy.
Super handy. Instead of sewing on the line, we are going to sew about 1/4 inch on both sides of the line. Sometimes I'll tell people they can sew it a little scant. By a little scant, I mean like 1 to 2 thread widths. Please don't make it 1/8 of an inch or
I like
less.
to sew it a little scant because I like lots of room to square.
I like to have stuff to square up. It fits into my like.
And then I have my cute little pile of trimmings.
Yeah, you know how Liz gives you that pile of like rainbow trimmings because she's a dork? This is how she gets the trimmings. It's all for the photo op, huh?
Actually, it just makes me happy while I do it.
It just makes her happy while she does it. Awesome. Alright, so we're going to sew down.
If you don't know what diagonal seam tape is, I'm going to go get it.
Go get it. Mine might be in my bag right there.
Yes, I'll go get it over.
My bag's over there behind the camera. Again, I don't like to sew over pins, but this isn't a bad. I do like to pin these just because, especially when I'm using bigger pieces like this, fabric can shift. A 4.5 inch square I consider fairly large.
A 2.5 inch square I don't pin. When they get big, I pin them.
What I did is I pulled out maybe 1 inch of thread here, and I'm just going to turn around and go back. Usually, if I'm chain piecing a bunch of these, I'll do all one side, and then
turn around and do all of the other side.
But you can just do one chain piece like this.
Okay, so I'm going to explain how the diagonal seam tape works on this type of an half square triangle. So the red line down the middle of the diagonal seam tape is your stitch line.
That's where your needle
is going to hit, okay? The black lines on either side are 1/4 inch from the center. I know, don't touch it. Okay. So when I'm lining up to sew it on the right hand side, my point is going to be over on the black line on the right hand side. When I line it up to sew on the left side, my point's going to be on the black. Sorry. It's going to be on the right, it's going to sew on the left. It's going to be on the left, it's going to sew on the right. But the point is, instead of drawing lines, I can just line my point up and start this 1/4 inch over. Right. And then I didn't have to draw any lines.
So when you need to make a few hundred of
when you're doing one, not a big deal. I could have spent hours, sorry, that's a thread, drawing lines on all those half square triangles and making myself crazy. Right. And so I didn't.
It's a way to avoid that.
I used diagonal seam tape.
Right.
Okay, so what we do here, go ahead.
Okay, so now she's going to cut on the line that she drew.
Yes.
So basically separating the 2 half square triangle units. I'm going to go ahead and press these.
What size do you want these ones?
Do it further big because we're going to do all 4. So like a 5 inch square-ish. Ish. You know. I don't know. I just cut strips of fabric.
I know.
It's kind of been a bit of a day. It's been busy. I mean, we've been constructing here some more. Sarita wants a close-up. We'll get you one. So now I have 2 half square triangles, once I trim them up, that are going to be the same size as this one, using the same amount of fabric. So 2 instead of 1. It's kind of awesome. Plus I didn't have to sew triangles, so that's always fun too.
Okay,
we love not
but because we added that extra 1/8 of an inch, there's extra room to square these up.
And you have to. And you'll see some pattern writers who always have you cut big and always have you square up. And I've
had trimmings this time around are quite a bit bigger.
I've had some people try to skip that step.
They're like,
and then they're like, why is my block not working out? Well, it's because you didn't do the last step. And I mean, squaring up can be dull. When I did my Corona quilt, not related to the virus, the crown, it was before the virus. I had like 484 half square triangles in one quilt. And I just, you know, I'm at my table with my Netflix and a drink and just hanging out. It's not that bad.
Preferably not something alcoholic.
Yeah, don't drink something alcoholic when you're doing a whole lot of things with a blade. It's not a good idea.
A drink is great, but don't hurt yourself.
Right.
So now we have 2 perfect half square triangles, a little bit of trimmings coming out of that guy. Okay.
Right.
What size are the pink ones on this one?
Huh? same.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We're doing 4 at once.
I was thinking of I had flying geese in my head.
Oh. Yeah, we're not making flying geese tonight. I mean, I suppose we really, really could. Oh, Sarita wants a close-up of the diagonal seam tape.
Yeah, go show them.
I'll show you.
While I cut your squares.
This is the diagonal seam tape. It's like the coolest new notion of 2019.
It
like
was like $7.99 and it's worth every penny and it will last you forever.
Oh my gosh, yeah. One roll is gonna last you ages. Because it's washi tape. That's all it is. It's
Which,
washi
if you don't know what washi tape is, it's like a masking tape.
Right. It's tape that doesn't leave a residue that you can easily remove. So,
okay.
That's why it's awesome.
So
Closer. All right, I'm gonna get right up close, Christine. Close.
4.5 because
Do.
I don't have a big enough ruler for me to do this.
I probably got too close there. I'm sorry. I'm being on you. Don't mind me.
This is why I love quilters like rulers.
Right?
I just twist the
Look at
fabric
how she's just spinning her fabric and it stays.
That's all about the brand
And
ruler, you guys.
Bonnie, you're awesome. She posted a link to the diagonal seam tape.
Oh, thank you.
Way to help us out, Bonnie.
Okay, so this is another method. If you're making lots and lots and lots, or you just hate making it, I don't know.
Or you really don't want to draw lines, but you also don't want diagonal seam tape.
Yes. Another option. I'm going to pin these 2 squares together.
In the middle.
In the middle. And Jen's going to show you how we sew this. This makes 4 at one time.
4 at once.
They're 4.5-inch squares, and I, off the top of my head, don't know what size they're going to come out, but we'll find out.
All right, we'll all get there together. I am literally going to sew the outside edges together.
The perimeter.
All 4 of them. Perimeter. Guys, we got to remember our math terms. Perimeter.
So 1/4 inch in the entire perimeter.
Define perimeter. Define it.
The outside edge.
There you
of the
go.
square. Okay? You're going to sew. So I'm going to hold it this square.
Hey, Anna, guess what Liz and I just cut for you?
This. It's not done. Soon.
The
perimeter of the square. Okay?
It's pretty much done.
It'll be done.
It'll be done Monday morning. Tonight. It'll be done tonight when we're done with this.
See, does that make sense? So
right,
the perimeter. I know it doesn't sound like it makes sense. Give it a minute. There's another way to make 8 at a time. We're not going to do that tonight.
Oh gosh.
Just
cut squares.
It gets a little intensive for me.
Right.
Okay. So we've sewn them. They're officially stuck together. I can't get these apart.
Right.
But now we are going to cut our diagonal line. There's no diagonal lines apparently, and there's always a diagonal line.
Even if there isn't one.
When it comes to
just put them back together.
I know, I let them fall apart.
Well, that makes it harder. This method, you really
have
always
to
have to
square
screw
it.
up because it's the least accurate, actually. Well, maybe not the least. Triangles are probably the least.
Okay, but because getting 2 45-degree lines
Perfectly cut.
Perfect.
They're not
But
always
now
good.
I have
4. And these
about 2.5-inch half square
these
triangles.
4 I am going to all press the same way, and it's because I promised Christine we would do pinwheels.
Yeah, 2.5 inches. Look at that.
Woohoo! So 4.5 makes 2.5.
Okay.
Good to know.
So when it comes to half square triangles and pressing your seams, it depends on what you're gonna do. Okay?
Totally.
You're gonna do pinwheels. Press them all one direction. Dark, light, I don't care.
Right.
Press them all the one direction. On this guy, every single one of them got pressed open.
And why?
And that is because my half square triangles are going 1,000 different directions. And if I pressed them all to one side, I would have serious bulk in some of those corners. And so mine are all pressed open. So it really... I think it really depends
on what you're doing with it.
Yeah.
Totally depends on what you plan to do with it.
Because if you have a whole bunch of points meet up and you can't spin it, you could end up with some really bulky stuff.
It could end up being a bit of a mess, and we don't want it to be a mess. Piles are bad for everybody. So
for you, for me.
Right.
So just
so we want to eliminate piles.
So same pressing rule as always.
Right.
Whatever way makes the most sense.
Right. Unless you're doing pinwheels. pinwheels, in which case we're always going to press to one side. I don't care if it's light or dark, just be consistent. Oh, yeah. Bonnie, she posted the link to the travel iron. You're awesome. You're hired. I mean, we're not really hiring right now because, you know, life is crazy. But we love you. Okay, Liz is squaring them up because squaring up is absolutely obligatory if you're going to do... I mean, I think it's obligatory anyway with half square triangles.
But if you're going to do pinwheels,
your pinwheels, square it up.
Will never turn out accurate if you don't have a perfect half square triangle going into it.
Right. Right. Okay. You might as well just give it up. If your half square triangles aren't good going in.
Not that I expect you to be perfect. But
no, but this is how we help ourselves.
You will end up with a better product if you take the time to square it up correctly.
I'm going to sound egotistical here. I'm a pretty good at this game. Right? I'm a decent quilter. I still square up every one of my half square triangles because they aren't perfect coming off the machine.
And I give myself extra fabric because I know they're not going to be perfect coming off the
machine.
And
that is how my quilts end up looking pretty good. Because I do that step. When we skip those kind of steps, then we're expecting ourselves to be perfect going into it rather than helping ourselves along.
So, yeah,
so I'm going to put these right here as a pinwheel. Oh my gosh, I placed it without having to spin it 12 times. I usually am like, how does this go down? And I spin it around 4 times.
Mess yourself up.
Okay. So, here's my pinwheel. They're all pressed the same direction. It's too high up.
Oh, no, you can. Okay.
Can you see it? Okay. Let's get these out of the way. They're distracting.
We made them those ways.
Okay. There you go. Those are the different ways. Here's my pinwheel. We're just going to put it together as 2 rows. The trick for pinwheels, to be able to spin that inner seam, and when we do spin it, we'll move the camera in close so you can see it, is that we're always going to press the same direction. I don't mean press everything clockwise or press everything counterclockwise. I mean, right now I've pressed to this tan fabric, and after I flip this over here and sew this seam, I'm going to press to that tan fabric.
You're going to want to press the other way.
You're going to want to.
Bulk, don't do it.
And part of it, you think, well, it makes sense. I'm going to go clockwise all the way around. That'll spin it. No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Just always press to the same. Pick a fabric and always press that direction.
Right. So if you have a light or a dark, probably go to the dark. I like to leave my pinwheels laying down because I don't know how many times I've sewn the wrong side.
Yeah, I don't.
It happens. Just.
Well, that was like, I showed you guys one picture. When I was making this guy, every block came off my big design wall onto a design board, at which point I photographed it and then sewed them together and consistently referred to the photograph on my phone.
That's what happens when you write the pattern, because...
Well, I haven't written the pattern.
Well, because she didn't have a pattern to go to, because this is her testing her design for writing a pattern. So, it's not like she could refer to a photo.
Yeah. So, but it's hard to keep things oriented the right direction, right, is what I'm telling you. And so, I constantly am laying things back out, and I unpicked.
Which is why if you're a chain piecer like me, leaders and enders. Yes. All right,
well, pinwheel. I worked on 2 blocks at a time.
We're gonna, yeah, that too. I like to, part of the reason I love doing this way is I can nest that center seam in.
Then you know you're in the right spot.
You're like, look, it fits just right. And I might even, just for kicks and giggles, grab a pin.
When you're able to nest seams like that, it really helps to know.
Especially
makes you know that you're being accurate.
When you're trying to make points match, it helps.
Yeah, I always slow down at this point. There you go.
Pull the pin.
Okay. Sorry. Jen's going to, well, she's not going to press it open. I'm going to bring the camera in.
Alright, you bring it in.
So that you can see what spinning looks like. Can you bring your mat up front? Actually.
Am I pressing that?
Yeah. It's okay right there.
Alright. So the reason why I like to spin a pinwheel seam is look at all this bulk here in the center. There's a whole lot. And if I press it to the side, I'm going to have a mountain right here.
And if my needle hits it on the long arm, it could potentially break and damage my quilt.
Right. So again, what I want to do, there are ways to do the half square triangles on paper.
Yeah, there's the half square triangles papers or the triangles on a roll.
Right. The triangles on a roll. It's essentially foundation paper piecing.
And triangles. I know a lot of people that love that because it's how they feel like they get it accurate.
Right. It does work well. I'm a foundation paper piecer. All right. So again, I'm pressing to the brown, but I'm using my fingers. And I'm just going to ease this center open. Just ease.
She's undone a couple stitches there. Can you see that?
I'm undoing like 3 or 4 stitches right here. I can even grab my seam ripper right here to pull that one out. So those last
couple stitches, she just undoes it so that you can open it up.
I just use my fingers to kind of push that open. I'm going to press this now, and then you can see the fun little surprise on the inside. Right? I'm a dork.
It is kind of fun, though.
Look,
can you see the pinwheel?
Look. There's a mini pinwheel on
from
the
where
inside.
You pressed it open.
So there's my outer pinwheel with my points that all match up beautifully. And there's my little pinwheel on the back.
With spun seams.
And
it's going to sit a lot flatter.
It's going to sit nice and flat. I'm not going to hit a huge pile with my long arm when I go to quilt it. It keeps there from being piles. And it actually makes this look better. Oh, that one's a tiny bit off.
I know, I didn't cut it perfect.
That's okay. It's good enough. It'll come out in the quilting.
Won't notice, right?
Right. They'll forgive me. It's almost perfect. Almost.
Sorry, moving again.
Yeah, that's what happens when we move the camera.
Okay.
Anyway.
But that is half square triangles 4 ways. Right. Oh, do we want to show them Tuesday's project?
Yeah. You guys want to see what our live is on Tuesday?
This one's going to be fun.
It's going to be awesome.
And while she's grabbing it, I'm going to show you. Guys, I do not make bags because I seriously suck at making bags.
Jen makes her bags for her.
I made a cutie cube out of Tula Pink. And my daughter is now saying, when are you going to make me one? And I keep saying, oh my gosh, I don't want to. But they're so cute. And even I made one. So that should tell you something. So this was my finished project today.
Oh, it's...
Okay, pressing mat. This is a wool pressing mat. Love wool pressing mats. You can put them on any countertop.
Right.
The heat
just pressed
stays in there. And they just make your seams flatter.
They do.
So, thanks, Bonnie and Anna. Anyway, this is my cutie cube.
She made one. She's very proud.
And I think I've decided what to do with it, too. You'll see it in an Instagram post in the next couple of days.
Right.
When I get around to posting it. But it's fine. But yeah, this is a wool pressing mat. Totally recommend them. Especially if you've got a spot to put it right next to your sewing machine.
Right.
It's
in my sewing room at my table. I have my sewing machine. I have a small cutting mat. And I have my pressing mat. I have my bigger workstation back over here. But that's my...
It helps the heat move... Thanks, Bonnie. It helps the heat move more evenly through the fabric. And it gets everything nice and hot. And it does help get your seams flatter. So they're just nice to have. They do smell for the first little while. A bit like a, sheep.
Luckily, it's spring, so open the window.
Open the window in your sewing room. It goes down after a while to where you don't hardly smell it, but that first couple
Honestly, it never bothered me, but if you're somebody who's really bothered by scents, it could.
Although,
there's
if
alpaca,
if
which
you're really
doesn't
sensitive,
smell.
Alpaca doesn't smell, and we have those too.
Right. It's a little spendier, but it doesn't smell.
But yeah.
All right,
so, Tuesday's project, from the same designer as the Cutie Cube,
Kim did an Easter basket. A quilted Easter basket.
And Jen, of course, had to use Poppy Cotton's gingham
I'm
farmhouse.
Sorry. They are gingham bunnies. Like, it had to be an Easter basket.
Yes. So, sorry, Susie. So this is going to be our project on Tuesday. I will be posting...
look for a
picture of this.
It's a free tutorial on from Minky Kim. So we will post a link to that so you can see what instructions,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. You can use batting. You can use the soft and stable.
I believe.
We recently got in the in our form that's fusible on both sides.
It's the Bosal foam that's got fusible on both sides, so you don't need anything.
And a third of a yard would make one.
Yes. So we do have that.
So if you need any supplies, let us know. I'm gonna have to make a few more because I think they're fun. Plus, the mice got to our Easter baskets in our garage.
Oh, and you have 4 kids.
And I have 4 kids, and we're all supposed to be quarantining and not go shopping, and I don't think that counts as essential.
Easter baskets? No way.
No, but I have a fabric
and
store.
They're done with these cute little, what do you call these?
They're double cap rivets.
Rivets, and so like the handle moves.
Right?
Isn't that adorable? It'll be fun. So we will post probably tomorrow or Monday morning a link to the tutorial. Look for a picture of this basket, okay?
Right.
And we'll have a link to the tutorial and probably some links on there to some of the supplies you may need.
Right.
To make it.
But if you just have batting, that will work. So
batting
if you have batting
will
scraps,
work. It won't be quite as stiff.
Right. But it'll totally work. Yeah.
Turn this thing off before I hurt myself.
Yeah. I have blisters on my arms.
I know.
From
It's
last
hot
time.
standing here.
So that's what we're gonna make on Tuesday. Wow, we were fast tonight.
I know.
That was weird.
And my husband's like, "How do you always end up exactly an hour?" Like,
because we're good. I don't know.
Anyway,
we didn't.
I'm going to tell you about our project here.
I'm gonna move the basket out of the way.
I love rainbow everything because rainbows just make me happy, right? They're a happy thing. Anyway, so when Allison Glass's new sun prints came out, they were just asking to be made into a rainbow. Yes, we'll post the House Square Triangles cheat sheet. I'm gonna swear if I say that too fast. Tomorrow as well. Okay, so rainbows. I wanted to make a pixelated rainbow quilt, and because I can't leave ideas alone, I also wanted to make a half square triangle pixelated rainbow quilt. Because I do. Right. Anyway, so this is what I came up with. This will, hey Sally, it's okay, you can watch it later, but you can watch the end while I talk about my quilts. So this will be the free pattern in our April newsletter. Jen's gonna have to give me about a week to finish writing it.
Could be on it.
Because I got tired of trying to plot it out perfectly on the computer, and so I made it instead. So now I have to go back and, do the work on the computer.
Replot, add these little guys.
But I'm calling it Brighter Days Ahead, because to me that's what a rainbow is all about. It's about a promise of something better. Like there's always a calm after the storm. There's always sunshine coming. And you know what? That's where we're at these days, okay?
It's just gonna get better.
Life's a little tough right now, and it's a little crazy, and I'm stuck in my house with 3 small children, and I love my kids, and I love my husband, but holy cow, I want to send them back to school, too. And their teachers are saints. So, so I just love it. And this is kind of a baby-sized quilt. It ends at 50 by 50. It makes a great kid quilt or lap quilt. Or throw. You could also make the half square triangles bigger.
Totally.
If you want to, and make it bigger. But I liked it this size, and it'll go in my playroom upstairs someday. And then I also did a rainbow binding, because you guys saw pictures of that last night, because that's who I am, and it needed a rainbow binding. Right. And it's quilted with clouds, because I'm also corny like that too.
Alright.
But
I'm gonna fix the angle here.
You can pre-order this kit on our website. The estimated ready date is April 10th. Because I have to finish.
You gotta write the pattern.
While I do tutorials and, quilt all your quilts, fill online orders, and manage my life. So,
right, and teach your kids, because spring break's over on Monday.
I know, this week with spring break, we didn't have to do school. Right. And my son's preschool is going to be online, too.
Online preschool? Go for the love.
I'm so not thrilled about that.
No.
It's great. But there are brighter days ahead.
It's gonna be okay.
It's gonna be okay.
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. Jen's fine. Everything. It's like
fine.
Ross is fine. I'm fine. I don't know why it's coming out.
I don't know why it's gonna be all squeaky, but I'm fine.
Yeah. So anyway, this is my secret sewing rainbow project. The pattern will be available in our April newsletter. So if you are not subscribed,
you better
do that, and you'll get the pattern for free.
Right. But it's only free for like a week. So
yes, I don't leave them free forever.
So you got to download it after that week.
You just have to buy it.
You just got to pay for it. You can still get it.
But yeah. So, but this is why we talk half square triangles. So you don't have to be afraid of this crazy mess of half square triangles behind me.
It's awesome.
Because it turns into something so fun.
Super fun.
So, anyway, thanks everybody for joining us again.
Yeah. Feel free to ask questions.
Questions.
We are around. So you can message us, call the shop during
like I said
hours.
This morning, we're
quilting up a storm
a lot. And so we're probably actually going to start getting caught up. So if you got quilts you need done, don't hesitate. We probably got time.
Right.
And we're taking online orders and over the phone orders. And we've even done some concierge shopping or shopping through the door.
Right. We'll put a stack of bolts by the front door.
You subscribe to the newsletter. If you go to our website at jkquilts.com and scroll all the way to the bottom of the homepage, there's a sign up for our newsletter. Put your name and email address in there.
Mm-hmm.
Just put it in there. You have to give a full first name and last name. If you just put in an initial, it won't work.
Yeah.
So subscribe that way.
But we don't sell your email address.
No, and we generally send out newsletters once a month.
Right. We sent
this month we sent a few extras
because of virus nonsense.
Trying to update people with
but,
our business hours and stuff. But we generally only send them once a month. We try not to
spam you.
Inundate email boxes. So, but yeah. Anyway, thanks everyone. Have a good weekend. I'd say get some rest, but you probably have been. So,
and if you haven't,
get some rest anyway.
And we will be back Tuesday night to make some lovely little quilted Easter baskets. So, that'll be fun.
It will be fun.
And if you want to sew along with us on Tuesday, then make sure to read the post. I'm probably not going to be doing most of the quilting.
So if
on
you
the
want
video,
to have
I might quilt the bottom piece, but not the sides.
So if you want to have yours quilted ahead of time, I would do that.
Right.
You don't have to do the
you don't have to do the cross hatching. She did straight lines.
Like straight lines. I did straight lines on mine.
Super easy to do.
And in fact, if you do the double-sided fusible, you don't actually have to quilt it at all.
I actually did this at home last night on my sewing machine, and I had left my walking foot here. So I quilted this without a walking foot last night.
And it's doable.
So it's all good.
Thanks, Cindy. You're welcome.
So anyway, we will see you Tuesday night to make some Easter baskets. And until then, have fun. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
And we'll see you soon. Thanks, Susie.